Hello, my name is Daniel Keenan. This project is a joint production of the University of Maine School of Law's Refugee and Human Rights Clinic, the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project, and Justice for Our Neighbors in Portland, Maine. This multi-part video series aims to inform you about the procedure for applying for asylum in the United States without the assistance of a lawyer. Maine Law's Refugee and Human Rights Clinic and the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project have also prepared a detailed written guide in English, French, Spanish, and Arabic called How to Apply for Asylum in the United States. This guide is available online. I strongly suggest you read this guide carefully and watch these videos as you prepare your asylum application. At this point, you have learned from the first video about the general requirements and process for applying for asylum. You have also learned from previous videos how to complete the actual asylum application, the I-589, and how to draft your personal declaration. In your declaration and on your I-589, you will make statements that can be supported by evidence. Evidence can help verify the claims you make in your asylum application and make an asylum officer more likely to believe your story is true. In this video, we will talk about gathering evidence in support of your claim for asylum. Evidence can take many forms. To give you a very simple example, if your I-589 says that you were born on June 1st, 1980, your passport or your birth certificate could be evidence that you were actually born on that date. Generally, there are two main types of evidence for asylum claims. There is evidence that is personal to the asylum applicant, like your passport, and there is general evidence that speaks to conditions in your home country, like newspaper articles or non-governmental organization reports. The second type of evidence is usually referred to as country condition evidence, and the first is called personal evidence. This video will explain these different types of evidence that might support an asylum claim. First, however, you should keep a few things in mind. There is no single document that is required to support your asylum application. I will be talking about many different forms of evidence in this video, but you should not feel that you need to gather each and every type of evidence in order to have a strong asylum application. Every case is different, and you can submit any document to support the facts in your declaration as long as it is true. You should only submit evidence that is specific to your claim for asylum. You should submit only copies, not originals. Keep originals with you and bring them to your asylum interview. Before I talk about the different types of evidence you can use to support your asylum claim, I'd like to mention that the asylum officers are aware that often evidence is not available to support an asylum claim. Therefore, they do not require evidence to corroborate everything in your declaration. Instead, the asylum officer expects that you provide evidence that is reasonably available. So when is evidence reasonably available? If a document can be obtained, or if a witness statement can be made without putting yourself or someone else in danger, you should try to get that document or witness statement. A good example of a document that is not reasonably available would be a document that can be obtained only by asking the government of your home country for it. For example, let's say that a police report and medical records from a government-run hospital could be used to support your case. But you can only get those documents by asking your government for them. In this instance, it would be unreasonable for the U.S. government to expect you to obtain these documents because it would put you or another person at risk. You may not always be successful in obtaining a particular document even when it doesn't put anyone at risk. That's okay. Just keep a record of what you did to obtain the document. For example, let's say that you have a summons from a police officer and the summons is relevant to your case and a friend back home has it. But when you contact your friend to get a copy of the document, you find that the friend has moved away and you do not know where he or she is. Be ready to tell the asylum officer that you did try to get a copy of the summons, but that you couldn't locate your friend despite your best efforts using various means like email, Viber, Facebook, or WhatsApp. I'm going to describe specific kinds of possible evidence you can submit. You should refer to the guide how to apply for asylum in the United States for a list of types of evidence and examples of each category. First, there are documents that prove your identity and family connections. Identity documents are documents that prove you are who you say you are. Some examples of identity documents are passports, birth certificates for you and or any of your children, marriage certificates if you are legally married and have a certificate of that marriage, or state identification cards. You may not have multiple forms of identity documentation, but just one of these documents may be enough to prove who you are. Again, there is no single document you must have to support your application. Just submit the documents you have or that you can get safely. You can also submit diplomas and certifications from any previous education you've acquired, either in your home country, the US, or any other country. There's also membership and identification cards. For example, a membership card from a political party you are a member of, or an ID card from work. Written threats. If you received any written or recorded threats in your country that are related to your asylum claim, such as letters, emails, text messages, or internet chat records, you should include them if you have them. Then there's medical evidence. If you suffered injuries or poor health as a result of the harm you suffered in your country, you can submit medical reports to provide evidence of this harm. If you were treated in your home country and can obtain medical records, then you should submit those. In some cases, it will not be possible to obtain medical records from your home country, especially where, for example, the hospital is run by agents of your government and you fear your government. Medical reports don't have to be from your home country to be useful. If you still have evidence of your injuries, such as scarring, pain, broken bones, you can also see a doctor here in the United States to evaluate you and to provide a report based on your injuries. Remember, as we discussed in the first video, harm means both physical and psychological harm. You can provide records from a counselor or a therapist in the US or abroad that has knowledge of the psychological harm you suffered or the harm you feel you will experience. Then there's photographic evidence. Include any photographs that are relevant to your case. Submit copies only, not originals. Some examples include pictures after a home invasion, if relevant to your case, injuries or scars on your body or on other people relevant to your claim, photographs showing your participation in a demonstration. Then there's evidence of police reports, arrest records, and summons. If you were arrested in your home country, explain why. For example, because you were targeted by the government due to your political opinion. If you have a summons for your arrest, tell the asylum officer. Submit it or be prepared to explain why you don't have it or couldn't get it. Then there's evidence to show you're a member of the US community and deserving of asylum. It is also important to show that you are deserving of being granted asylum in the US and that you are integrating into your community here in the US. This might include evidence that you are currently working, taking English classes, volunteering, and or otherwise engaging with the community through church, mosque, and so on. Finally, there's witness statement evidence. One way that you can support the facts in your asylum application is to provide witness statements. As I mentioned earlier, the asylum officer is going to expect you to try all reasonable means to gather evidence to support your application. That means that if you know people, either here in the US or in another country, who are aware of the harm you suffered or fear suffering, then you should attempt to contact them and ask them to provide a statement attesting to that harm if it would not put them or others in danger. A witness is someone who knows anything about your claim for asylum. The witness did not have to see anything happen with his or her own eyes. A witness only needs to know something about the specific reasons that you left your country and why you cannot go back. A witness can be anywhere in the world. Let me give you an example of different witnesses for one event. Let's say you fled your home country because government agents came to your house and attacked you. A witness could be someone who was living in your house at the time who actually saw the beating take place. Or A witness could be a neighbor who heard a fight take place or who heard other neighbors talking about it. Even if that witness does not know who the attackers were, he or she could say that a fight took place at the same time you said it did. A witness could also be a friend who saw you after you were beaten. Although the friend didn't actually see the beating, but he or she could say that you had a black eye or you were very scared. Another example. Let's say the reason you were attacked by the government agents was because of your political belief or a family member's political beliefs. A witness could be someone who knew about your membership or your family's membership in that political party, even if they do not know the details of the attack. Another example. Let's say that after you were beaten or attacked, you were in hiding in a friend or an acquaintance's house. That person that housed you could be a witness. Or if someone you knew helped you flee, either by providing you with money or helping you with a visa or travel arrangements, that person could also be a witness. One witness may be able to support multiple facts in your declaration. In the examples I just gave, it might have been the same person that witnessed all of those events, or provided you with support, or there may be several different people. You should try to get statements from as many witnesses as possible who can corroborate the facts that you include in your declaration or I-589, but it is important to remember that you may not be able to get a witness statement for all of these facts, and you should focus your efforts on obtaining witness statements from those who know the most about your situation. While everyone who applies for asylum should make attempts to gather witness statements to support their application, not everyone is able to obtain a witness statement. As I said before, the asylum officer will want to see that you made reasonable attempts to get the statement. Some witnesses might be concerned for their safety when thinking about providing a statement, and they are worried about what the U.S. government will do with the statement. The U.S. government is required to keep information relating to an individual's asylum case secret and may not contact government officials or police in your country and release the details of your claim or of your witnesses. After you have contacted the witness and the witness has told you that they are willing to submit a statement, ask them to prepare a statement. The witness will need to state who they are, how they know you, and what they know about why you left your home country, and or why you cannot return to your home country. Ideally, the witness will prepare this document themselves. The asylum officer will probably find a statement prepared by a witness more convincing than a statement that you wrote and ask the witness to sign. Once the witness has prepared their statement, they should send it to you so that you can make sure it is accurate, helpful to your application, and true. The witness does not have to send the statement by mail. They could also fax it to you, email it to you, or even read it to you over the phone. You should always review the witness statement. Sometimes witnesses will add things that could hurt your asylum claim. Make sure you review the statement carefully before you finalize it. Once you have reviewed the statement and determined that it is true, accurate, and helpful, you should ask the witness to sign and date it, and then get it to you. If possible, your witness should scan and email the statement to you before they put it in the mail. You will submit a copy with your asylum application, not the original. The original, signed, dated document will be brought to the interview. Emails are less convincing to the asylum officer, but should still be submitted if it is the only way you can obtain the statement. If a witness statement is in a language other than English, you will need to submit both an English version and the version in the witness's original language. Keep in mind that you, as the applicant, cannot do the translation, and you will need to have someone else do it for you. The translator will also need to complete a certificate of translation and attach it to the document. A sample of a certificate of translation can be found in the guide entitled How to Apply for Asylum in the United States. You should also submit what is called country condition evidence to support your asylum claim. The asylum officer reviewing your application may not know anything about your country, and so it is important to educate them about your country and what it was like for you there. You will explain this in your declaration, but it is also helpful to include evidence about the situation of your country in the form of reports and news articles. Country condition evidence can be easier to obtain than personalized evidence. You can get a lot of it online. Examples of country condition evidence include human rights reports from the U.S. Department of State, reports from Amnesty International, reports from Human Rights Watch, news articles from reputable news outlets such as the New York Times or BBC, or scholarly articles. Country condition evidence can be used to support general statements you have made about your country and what is happening there. For example, the Department of State's human rights reports might confirm that your country's government engages in torture or abuse of people who voice opposition to the ruling government. Also, country condition reports may be used to establish that specific events you discussed in your personal declaration actually occurred. For example, if you state in your declaration that you attended a specific political demonstration, you may be able to find a newspaper article or report that talks about that demonstration. Sometimes, country condition evidence can contradict important parts of your story. For example, let's say that in your declaration you state your home country's government engages in abuse of political opponents, but the U.S. Department of State's Human Rights Report states the opposite. If you find yourself in a situation like this, you should contact an experienced immigration attorney to discuss this issue. There are things to remember and tips to keep in mind when submitting evidence. All evidence must be translated into English if written in a foreign language. The person who translates the document does not need to be certified by any authority to perform the translation. He or she just needs to certify that he or she is fluent in English and the foreign language being translated. Always be truthful and never file a fraudulent document. Sometimes you may not know whether a document in your possession is real. If you have doubt about the authenticity of a document, you should not file it just to be on the safe side. If someone else sends you a document, you should know where they got it from and do what you can to ensure it is not fake. Do not submit originals to the U.S. government. Only submit a copy. Remember to bring originals to your interview with the asylum officer. Keep a record of how you get witness statements and other evidence. For example, was it mailed or dropped off to you? The record you have can be as simple as the envelope that the document or letter came in. Review everything before you submit it. This will help you make sure everything is accurate and consistent. If something is inconsistent, reviewing will give you the opportunity to see the inconsistency and explain it, or you may choose not to submit it. Asylum officers look for inconsistencies. Check all documents carefully. For example, if you remember 3 men arrested you, but your witness statement says that 2 men arrested you, be sure to explain why you say one thing and your witness says another. Do not put yourself or others in danger to secure evidence or documents. Instead, explain why you cannot provide the evidence or documents.